You sat down on a Sunday and did everything right. You wrote out what comes in. You wrote out what goes out. You found $40 of room, and you felt something close to hope. Then the car needed a part, and the $40 was gone by Wednesday. Most people decide, right there, that they are bad with money. They are not. The budget was never the problem. The arithmetic underneath it was. This is Junior. He earns a real wage. He tracks every dollar, and for 2 years, every budget he built collapsed in the same place. Here is what nobody says out loud. Almost every budgeting method you have been handed assumes one thing before it starts. It assumes you already have a gap, money, sitting between what arrives and what has to leave. 50-30-20 assumes a gap. Cash envelopes assume a gap. Pay yourself first assumes a gap. When that gap is already thin, those systems are not teaching you anything. They are describing your problem back to you in a nicer font. Handing someone a better budgeting method when they have no gap is like handing them a map when what they are out of is fuel. The Federal Reserve asks American adults one simple question every year. Could you cover a $400 emergency using cash? In the 2025 survey, 63% said yes, which means 37% said no. Then the Fed asked about 3 months without your main income. 30% said they could not cover that by any method available to them. That means no savings, no borrowing, and nothing worth selling. Then the Fed did something more useful. It sorted people by one question. Do you have money left over at the end of the month? Among the people who always did, 86% had 3 months of savings. Among the people who never did, 13% did. That sounds obvious. Of course, people with a surplus end up with savings. But sit with what it means. The thing separating those two groups is not discipline inside the budget. It is whether a gap exists at all. So the gap is the whole game, which brings us to the part almost nobody teaches, where a gap comes from when it feels like there is nothing left to cut. It sounds like there should be nothing left to find. There usually is, and never where you have been looking. You have been told to go through your spending. The two biggest sources of a gap are not in your spending at all. Junior spent a year on the first one anyway. He cut a $5 coffee 4 times a week. That is $20 a week, about $86 a month, and it is real money. He held that line for a year, and nothing improved, because his rent went up $90 over the same 12 months. He was running at the small number, while the big number moved on its own. Cutting coffee, while rent climbs, is bailing out a boat with a cup, while the hole gets wider. So here is the rule that works. A small percentage off a big bill beats a total cut on a small one. 5% off a $1,500 rent is $75 a month, every month, and you give up nothing you enjoy to get it. To find that same $75 inside small purchases, you have to give up nearly everything, and then keep giving it up forever. That is why the first place to look is the handful of bills that repeat whether you use them or not. Housing, transport, insurance, and debt payments. Those are the ones people never try to move, because they feel permanent. Some of them are. Several usually are not. If this is landing differently than the money advice you usually get, subscribing tells me to keep making these. That is the first source of a gap. The second is stranger, because it is money that is already yours, sitting unclaimed. That sounds like something a scam would say. It is a federal tax credit, and the IRS publishes exactly how many people miss it. You were taught to think of the tax system as the thing that takes from you. For low and moderate earners, part of it is built to pay you, and it only pays if you ask. It is called the Earned Income Tax Credit. For tax year 2025, it is worth up to $649 if you have no children, and up to $8,046 with 3 or more. The income ceilings are higher than most people assume. Filing single with 1 child, you can earn just over $50,000 and still qualify for some of it. Here is the figure that should bother you. The IRS estimates that in tax year 2022, about 19% of everyone eligible did not claim it. Roughly 1 in 5. That is not fraud, and it is not laziness. Most of them never knew it existed, or never filed at all, because their income was low enough that filing was not required. That is the trap inside the rule. You have to file a return to receive it even in a year when you were not required to file one. If you skip filing, the credit does not come and find you, and it goes backward. You have 3 years to return and claim it. If you were eligible in 2023 and never claimed, you have until April of 2027 to fix that. If you filed but left the credit off, an amended return corrects it. So that is where a gap comes from. One large bill you were told was permanent, and one credit you may already be owed, which leaves what to do with a gap once you have made one. The instinct is to go straight for 3 months of expenses. And that instinct is what makes people quit in the first week. Look at the Fed's split again. What separated those two groups was never a number. It was whether anything was left at all. Junior did not start with 3 months. He started with $17 a week, moved into a separate account he deliberately did not carry a card for. Over a year, that is $884. It would not cover 3 months of anything, but it covers the $400 car repair that used to land on a credit card. And that repair is where the spiral usually begins. A buffer that small is not there to make you feel wealthy. It is there so one bad Tuesday does not turn into 8 months of interest payments. So if you have been doing everything right on Sunday and watching it fall apart by Wednesday, you know what was happening. You were running a system that required a gap without having a gap. Build the gap first. One big bill, one credit you might already be owed, and a number small enough that you will not quit. Then the budgeting advice everybody gives you will finally have something to work with. You were never bad with money. You were handed the right instructions in the wrong order. Want to learn more? Check the channel, drop a like, and subscribe.